guys, I'm Kristen. Welcome and welcome back. So today I'm going to be sharing my wrap up for the month of May. I think going forward, because as I sit here, I am genuinely terrified about what I'm going to say about any of these books because it's been a little bit of time. And just with everything in my life, I honestly forget specifics about a lot of these books. So I think I'm going to try to start doing my vlog style wrap ups again. That might not happen because I feel like it's also hard just to physically sit down and record things. We've got a nap going on. We're going to try to film this video, but I'm going to try to do that moving forward. We'll see. If this one finishes and I still have time, maybe I'll wrap up the books that I've read so far in June as well and start that. So here we are. Let's talk about May. In May, I only finished 6 books. In May, I finished 6 books, and I generally feel like I enjoyed the books that I read, but I do feel like towards the latter half of the month, I kind of and this is leaking into June already, where I feel like I don't feel super invested in anything that I'm reading. I'm enjoying them, they're fine, everything is great, but I don't feel really, really connected, and I don't really feel like I care to a significant extent about what I am reading. So maybe I'm burning out a little bit, I'm not sure, or maybe I just need to read some books that I'm more excited about, I'm not sure. Hopefully it doesn't last well into June, but let's get into some specific stats. So as I said, 6 books. I read 2 new releases, 3 new to me authors. I finished 1 series. I started 2 series. I read 2 sequels. Yeah, and then the other one was a standalone. So not bad breakdown. I only read 1 of my priority books for 2024, but I'm actually doing a really good job. I'm on track with those numbers, so it was okay that I only read 1. But I also read 3 other priority reads, which were essentially what did I call them in the last video? Video mention books. I don't know, but it's basically holding myself accountable to reading the books that I bring up in videos that I say, hey, I want to read this blank category of books. And so then I'm holding myself accountable to actually read those books. So I read 3 books that I have previously mentioned in videos that I want to read in the month of May. So overall pretty good, 4 priority books out of the 6 books that I read. Off the top of my head, I don't think that I DNF'd anything, but I will have to double check my records. I'm going to do a first half of the year DNFs of the books that I didn't finish. So that is coming up. Stay tuned for all of my halfway through the year content. Woo! Let's get into the specific books themselves. At the beginning of the month, I finished Jade Legacy. That's right, I have finally completed the Greenbone Saga. This one, I feel like I should have sat down and filmed something in the moment because I remember being I need to talk to people about this book, about this series. I did tear up in a couple different places. I wasn't sobbing or bawling, but there were definitely moments that got me. I feel like this book made me realize how well crafted that entire series and world were. I definitely going into it, this is of course the Godfather-like, but with Jade magic, where when certain people hold or are physically touching the Jade stone, it enhances certain physical characteristics about them. So they can be stronger, they can defend themselves, they can have better perception, a variety of things. And we follow this Jade kind of crime, but it's not really crime, but it's the one of the families that control the Jade world. Doing such a bad job with this. One of the families that controls the Jade commerce, etc., the Jade usage in this island country, and its broader use elsewhere, and that's complicated as things go in the series, but we're following one of those families. It does kind of read as a crime, like a Godfather mafia kind of esque thing, but it's not illegal. For the most part, what they're doing is not illegal, and that plays into the fact that this did such a good job of exploring and making you buy into and become very accepting of a culture with different moral values than your own. I think a lot of people have trouble with certain actions that particular characters do over the course of this series, and I think that just has to do with the culture element. So yeah, extremely well crafted. I texted Maria I think I sent her some like voice recordings too of my thoughts like right after finishing this. I should have re-listened to those and read them. I thought initially that this series was going to bother me in that it like spans a really long time period, and that didn't at all. I think the author did such a great job of crafting this series, of making you care about the changes that are going on within this island and within the larger like geopolitical scape of this world, and how this island and this family play into that. And over the course of the series as well, like there's just the scope of this war with a feuding family in the Jade control also really broadens. It was just so good. Like I definitely saw an element of the ending coming that didn't make it any less distressing when it happened. It took some turns that I wasn't expecting. Like some people were like wound up in a different place than I thought. There is an element, there's a character who I think is like plays a really great role of just chaos and randomness in this whole series, and it had a place where I thought was the ending, and I was a little bit disappointed with how that character was being wrapped up, and then it wasn't how that character was being wrapped up, and it was absolutely perfection. So just, yeah, like absolutely, I think I gave this like 4.75, but looking back, like I don't remember why I didn't give it 5 stars. Loved this series overall. Definitely would reread, would listen to the audio, would love to do a should you read for this series if there are still people who have not read this series. Anyway, let's moving on. So that was one of my priority reads. It was a series continuation. This was the ending, obviously, of one of my 2024 books. 24 books in 2024 that I wanted to read. Check. Done that. So worth it. I spent way too much time on that, and now I have like no video storage left for anything else. Then I read The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This was my first ever Robert Jackson Bennett book. It is also a new release. It wasn't a new release that I had mentioned that I wanted to read, so I didn't get any like points for that. But it was a new release from this year. And it is a mystery. It is like a Sherlock Holmesian inspired book where we are following the Watson-like character, where he's like the assistant to the very interesting and differently intelligent lead investigator. And the mystery, the murder here is that like a tree grows out of this body, and they're like, whoa, that's messed up. But in particular, there are things that like can create contagion, and this empire is like really built on like isolating, containing, quarantining elements of contagion so that it doesn't like spread and destroy this vast empire. Okay, what my overall thoughts for this book is that it was an enjoyable read. I was quite interested in the mystery and where it was going. I think that certain elements of this mystery were fairly predictable, but it did like take some twists and turns, and like some things along the way you just like didn't know that you wouldn't know that from like a world building perspective. But at the same time, like I think like the players involved were pretty obvious. I really enjoyed where it wound up, and I'm interested to see, like, I'm interested from a plot and world perspective in terms of moving forward, and that's usually not what keeps me going in series, and I think that just goes to show you how nothingness our main character was. I couldn't tell you his name. That doesn't really say much because I generally don't remember characters' names, but the character had just like this like complete bland lack of presence in the book that's being told from, is it their perspective? I think it might be third person. I don't remember the perspective details, but it's like he's the main character. But a lot of the other characters around him were much more interesting, particularly the investigator, who was not nearly on page enough. In my personal opinion, I'm hoping that changes moving forward. I just think there was just a distinct lack of anything going on from this character who just was so not present in his own book, which is so odd. And maybe that's the point. There's like elements that he is an engraver, which means that he has like a magically enhanced memory. Yeah. I also found that this is supposed to be set in a world with like lush vegetation elements, and for me, whatever reason, I couldn't picture that, and I was picturing like a much more Industrial Revolution, grimy, like streets of London. Like it had nothing to do with that. Like I'm pretty sure they were in a jungle for some elements, and like I didn't get any jungle vibes whatsoever. Like plants, yes, plants were really important from like a contagion and from some of how like the magic that they used. But yeah, just the atmosphere there was a huge disconnect in terms of the descriptive words that were being used. So I missed out on the lush vegetation jungle-esque vibe that was apparently supposed to be happening here. I didn't see that at all. While it was enjoyable and I was hooked on the story, there was a lot that was missing for me. So it was a really odd read for me, I would say. I would still check out other books from him, perhaps, and I'm, as I said, I'm curious from a story and world perspective to see where this keeps going, but otherwise, it was just fine, I guess, just fine. Then I read The Brides of High Hill by Niveau. This is another, I don't think it's a conclusion. Until I get something like very clearly that says this is the last book in the Singing Hill cycle, I'm gonna stop making that claim, because I think I've said that like about the last couple books in that series of novellas. Anyway, this is a series of novellas that I've been reading. It follows a main character, a non-binary main character called Chi, who is, I think their name is Chi, who is like a collector of stories who travels the world. And in this one, I almost don't want to say anything because it's set up as like a gothic mystery. I think it was the terminology, like a standalone gothic mystery within the Singing Hill cycle world. I think when you first get into it, you think you know what's going on and you think you know what the story is going to be. And it did something different that I absolutely loved. I really enjoy listening to these audiobooks. They're not like the greatest thing in the world, but they're really enjoyable audiobooks to like listen to on casual walks with your dog, that kind of thing. Like I particularly like the narrator who is doing this series. I don't remember their name off the top of my head, but it's one that I've read or I've listened to a few books with this narrator before, and I think that they are a narrator that you have to listen to at a slower speed. Their voice is not best inputted at like 2+ times speed. Like, so this is an audio narrator to like listen to slowly and savor. I think they do an amazing job. And as I said, I think Niveau did an amazing job of taking this story to places that I was not totally expecting. There's a interesting component like that it relates to, I think, like some things that are going on with other books. I don't know if that makes sense, and I can't say it because it's a spoiler, but if you know, let me know in the spoilers. If you know what I'm talking about, if that made any sense at all. Really enjoyed this series continuation. Loved it. Oh, and this was a new release that I had mentioned that I wanted to read, so check new release priority. Then I read The Deep Sky by Yumi Kitase. I'm not sure if that's how you say it. I apologize. This is a standalone sci-fi. It is a closed spaceship murder mystery, sort of. It's like a bomb, an explosion goes off, and a couple people are killed. And our main character is the only person on the ship who like doesn't have a specific role. They were like the alternate in this like space exploration thing. There's definitely a lot going on with that in terms of like personal hangups, identity hangups, dynamics with her and all of the other characters on this ship. I enjoyed it overall. There was a lot of flashbacks of retelling them growing up and going through like the schooling / competition in order to get a spot on this spaceship, as well as in the moment we're dealing with this like ticking time clock of like the explosion like knocked them off course a little bit, and they only have so long to figure out how to get back on course before they're like totally gonna die. Eventually, like starve or suffocate to death, like run out of resources on the spaceship. There was a pretty big element of friendship here, and I will say I don't actually feel like it proved to me this one particular friendship was as significantly important as it was. Even in the flashbacks, it isn't, and then it is really important. It's like not a friendship. It's a very important friendship that they would choose this person above like anyone else. And she didn't sell me on that relationship. I will say that definitely took some twists and turns in me like guessing like, oh, it was them. Oh no, it was this person. Oh no, it was this person who did this. Like they do like weave in and make you keep guessing a little bit. However, despite the fact that there are, I'm forgetting the exact number, 80, 100, something. There's like a limited number of people on the ship, but it's a double or triple digit number. However, there's very few named characters in the book. And so like odds are at a certain point, like if you're like 50% of the way in the book, like, you know, it's going to be one of the people that's already been mentioned. Like there was a very limited amount of potential people that it could have been, even though there was a much larger population of people that were on the ship. It was just like by sheerly who we had been introduced to, or by sheer fact of who we had been introduced to at a certain point in the book, you're like, no, it's going to be one of them. I had strong feelings that it was going to be one person based on a particular situation, by a particular scene, the way that somebody reacts. Then the author, though, did do a good job of making me second guess myself quite a few times. So there we have it. Then I read Age of Legend by Michael J. Sullivan. This was book number 4. I get really confused every time I do this, every time I talk about it. I think it was book number 4 in the Legends of the First Empire series. And this is the first one where I'm like, that was good, but was it enough to be its own book? This is a series where we're following I've talked about it a lot this year, so I don't want to say too much, but we're following a group of individuals. They live in this world where the humans previously thought these like elven-like figures were the gods. They're so long living. They live for like 3,000 years. And then one of the humans like kills one of them, and they realize maybe they're not gods. It has taken some drastic turns along the way, but this one we jump a little bit in time. We like first start out back where we left off, just to like not tie things up, but definitely to like lead in from where we were to now where we're going. And then we jump a few years, which was interesting, and it was fine. However, not that much happens. And I definitely, in each book, there is like this is the thing that we're working on this book. And in this one, it was like conversations. It was a lot of conversations about where to go next, or whether or not they should or shouldn't do this one particular thing. That being said, I love spending time with these characters. I really enjoy it, and I like that the way that he slowly adds in POVs in a way that makes it feel really natural over the course of the series, to an extent that by the time you're getting this new character, you like kind of already know them. They're like a player in the game, and you're actually really curious to see their perspective and to like get the deep inner thoughts that I think he's doing a really good job of, even with like such few like pages in the book generally. But yeah, this one I didn't really feel like from a plot perspective like anything happened. Like we like talked about something that then when it happened, it was big, but it was like one single moment, and it'll be really crazy going into the next book. But this book on its own, I feel like struggled to stand on its own as like a book where stuff happened. There was a little bit too much exposition about like this like storytelling component for my particular tastes, because again, I was like, is this it? Is this like all we're doing in this book? And it turns out, yeah, that is all we did in that book. All right, just one final book to talk about, and that is Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. This is another video TBR mention priority. Another book from a video that I've previously mentioned that I wanted to read. And this one is one of my 2023 new releases that I missed, that I wanted to check back. And actually, so was The Deep Sky, which I forgot to mention in the time. Okay, this is Cassandra Clare, new to me author. I actually have never read any other Cassandra Clare books. I think I like briefly picked up one of the, not Mortal Instruments, the other ones that everyone likes with the love triangle that everybody likes. I'm forgetting the name of that series. I read like half a chapter from that one time and decided it wasn't right in the moment, and I never went back. So this is my first try, I guess, with Cassandra Clare, and I did go into this a little bit skeptical, or at least I didn't originally read it because I was skeptical about the leap from young adult to adult fantasy, but I had heard good things and I decided to give this a go. I'll tell you what it's about. So we're following two characters, totally lost on their names already, but we're following this one guy who looks a bit like the crown prince in this city-state, and his role is to be the sword catcher. So he's kind of like the double, and he fills in for the prince whenever there's, for whatever reason, some security risk that they feel like could put the prince at harm, and so they put this guy in instead. And then we're also following a healer in the city of a faith where they are, it's obviously a Jewish stand-in, but where they are not allowed to live anywhere within the city, and in this city they have to like reside within a walled enclosure at night. So obviously you can see the historical influences here. These two characters get wrapped up in each other's lives a little bit when somebody gets hurt and she's called to the palace to like take care of it. My issue with this book, the drama of involving this book has to do with the fact that the crown prince is like, dude, it's like time for him to get married. And there's obviously like some political scheming going on in terms of like what kind of political alliance, who should he marry in order to get like, you know, the best situation for the land. Here's what I thought. The crown prince is an unlikable person. And not like a charming, unlikable character that you're like still kind of rooting for. He's just kind of sucks. He plays a significant role in each of the characters' stories, and I don't see the appeal. I can't say anything because I feel like it'll ruin it. But he is a person of interest in both POVs, and I don't find him at all appealing or like I get it. Ooh, woe is me, tough prince, etc. Like he's like that character, and I'm not buying it. I don't like that he is so significant to each of the POVs, and it makes me like those POVs less, or at least it makes me not care about the story when he is such a magnetizing figure within the story elements. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like he's driving events and he occupies their thoughts to some extent, and I don't see it. It's actually hilarious that I thought that I might be able to get 2 videos filmed. Anyway, so that not sold on the prince character, and because of whatever, that actually made a significant impact, on my overall enjoyment of the whole book. Everything else about it was fine. It does start really slow. It has the most ridiculously unnecessarily long prologue ever that like didn't really capture my attention. And it does start off slow. So what I did was I was reading the ebook and then I got into the audiobook in order to like break through that barrier. But then I lost my ebook copy, and around the time, or like after the time that I had lost my ebook copy, it was clear that I wasn't in love with the audiobook, and that like I had broken in enough that like I was interested enough that I could have gone back to read the ebook, but at that point it was too late. So I don't recommend the audiobook for this one. I did find the politics got interesting. And that's kind of where I'm leaving off, similar to the Tainted Cup, where I feel like it's actually the story and the politics and the world that makes me interested in picking up the next book, and not the characters at all. So I would be curious to see what the reception is for the next book on this one and make my decision from there. All right, well, out of time, obviously. Everybody's getting up. So I will leave you with that for my May wrap up. Let me know how May went for you, and I will talk to you guys down in the comments. If you just want to let me know that you were here, leave a sword emoji for our Sword Catcher by Cassandra Clare. If you like what I do here, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to see some more of my past videos, I will link some potentially relevant videos at the end of this one. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.